Right, back live with you tonight here on In Focus. Thanks for staying on. The ANC's Nomvuyo Mhlakaza-Manamela is Gauteng Legislature's new deputy speaker. However, of course, returning to that portfolio for the 7th administration. It follows the resignation of Refiloe N'tsheke, who vacated the post after the ANC and the DA failed to agree on a coalition. The ANC has since formed a minority government with smaller parties. ANC Gauteng spokesperson and Gauteng Provincial Legislature Whippery, Lesego Makhubela, is joining us in the studio on that. Here's a question for you on 072-110-5584. Do you support the DA's decision to remove Refiloe N'tsheke? Do you support the DA's decision to remove Refiloe N'tsheke? What are your thoughts on that? Lesego, good evening.
Good evening to you and good evening to your listeners.
The Premier, of course, at the time, would have said it's an unfortunate decision for them to have decided. It was premature. There could have still been a room for engagement. We are here now. What is your feeling?
Well, we have said it from the onset that we were well positioned to build the government of provincial unity. And that government of provincial unity must be inclusive of the broader spectrum of all political parties represented in the legislature. And we've been genuine about that. We know Honorable N'tsheke. We've worked with her in the legislature, for more than 10 years. She's been doing an outstanding job, and we thought that she was going to do an outstanding job as a deputy speaker. It's very unfortunate that her party had to ask her to resign. Yes, what the chair of the ANC and the Premier, Panyaza Lesufi, said is what we've been saying all along, that the door to the government of provincial unity is open. It remains a revolving door, not just for the DA. It's open for all other parties that have not yet signed into it.
Yeah, I know you don't like this thing of talking the seats and the negotiations that are happening behind in the media, but Solim Simang likes to put it out there. He says you still have not moved from the offer that you've made for them. You're still offering them 3 out of the 10 seats. There's no new offer. Therefore, no space of finding common ground.
You see, one of the things that we said we are not going to do is to flagellate ourselves and say something in the boardroom when we negotiate with parties, and another thing for the studios, the cameras, radios, so that people begin to say, no, this is the truth. No, it's not true. We were given an offer by the DA, and we accepted that offer. That offer was signed by Solim Simanga. That offer said, ANC, we are giving you 7 departments. We are taking 3 departments. You are taking the speaker. We are taking the deputy speaker. And I think the deputy chairperson was the chairperson of committees and other legislative functions in the legislature. So that was the offer they gave us. We accepted it. The offer changed a week later when Madam Zille came into Gauteng to begin to say, no, she's here now, she's negotiating on behalf of the party, and everything changed. So we had a deal with the DA, and that's why we walked into the legislature holding hands with all parties, including them, and because we had agreed to that deal, that they had brought us. It was not our deal, it was their deal. We had acceded to it, we've accepted it. They reneged from that deal, and they wanted more.
Now you are in a minority government setup. Will it work?
It remains a government of provincial unity, and that's why we said to a lot of people, and the people of Gauteng in particular, that whatever item is brought to the legislature, that item is going to pass. And we have demonstrated that from Monday. We elected the chairperson of committees from the SADP and the deputy chair of committees. Today, we elected the deputy speaker of the Gauteng Provincial Legislature and the 2 trustees for the public office bearers pension fund without any contest. In fact, if you check the house sittings in Gauteng compared to other legislatures, I think we don't even spend an hour in the legislature because we've reached consensus, and that's why I want to reject any notion and suggestion by the media that what we have formed is a minority government. It's not. It's a government of provincial unity that represents the broad spectrum of all political parties represented in the legislature. And that's why there was no contest. We feel that the chairperson of committee, no contest. The whole house agreed. We feel that deputy chair of committee. We elected the deputy speaker today following the unfortunate resignation of Honorable Refiloe N'tsheke, and there were no issues. We don't have any issues.
Well, it's a minority government because there are more parties outside the Gauteng Provincial Government of Unity than they are on the inside. So the DA being outside, that's a huge number. The EFF are not part, that's a huge number that is outside. So that creates a situation where motions of no confidence, for example, can be weaponized against the Premier.
Well, we don't believe that there will be that instability in Gauteng. And we've said that to investors. And I think we have to get to a point whereby, particularly the media, certain sections of the media, and some of the things that because these are some of the things that make investors very jittery about investing in this climate. I think we have to be applauded. If you look at how other countries struggle with just forming a minority government or forming a coalition government and everything, some countries, they even take more than a year, 2 years, 3 years. We've done it in less than 3 weeks. It took time because we had to consult with all these other parties, because we, in the back of our minds is the best interest of the people of Gauteng. How are we able to resolve the serious challenges that confront our people? And that's why we want to spend less time with political bickerings in the legislature and more time on the ground with our people, resolving some of the issues there. And I think the media has to begin to be part of the rhythm of this particular province and the country, and help us with positive messages where they see positive messages. When the fourth estate continues to say that no, this represents stability, instability, it makes investors jitter. There's no one who can come and invest in a place where tomorrow there can be a premier, tomorrow that premier cannot be there. And I think that's what brings together all these other parties that are represented in the legislature.
So what does that mean? What does that mean? I mean, are you saying you will still, for example, have broad consultation on issues, especially key issues, the passing of budgets and so on and so forth? Because others are saying, well, wait until this financial year is over. That's when we are really going to see the stability of this government.
It's a revolving door. I mean, we continue consulting with all parties, including when we fill the deputy speaker, when we fill the chair of chairs, and all the other items, whether it's now we're going into another important season of the life of government and the legislature, just to agree on what should be the priority focus of government, the APPs.
Yes.
So we are having a discussion with all parties and say, this is what we think that should be the APPs, and everyone is making a very constructive input into that. And that is inclusive not just of parties that have signed in on the government of provincial unity, but also parties that are outside. I mean, the chair of chairs is not the ACDP is not a signatory to the GNU, if you know that. But we all agree that here we have an outstanding member of the legislature who has been there for a long time, who's been caring communities, who has brilliant ideas, and therefore we have to bring him so that he's able to coordinate the oversight work of committees. So it's not about the door being closed to those who have signed and those who have not signed. Yeah. It's about ensuring that we put the best interest of the province.
Are those decisions though reversible? I mean, if you get to a point, because of course you're saying you're still engaging with the Democratic Alliance, you find common ground. Are these decisions that are reversible?
Your question hinges on the fact that people believe that the GNU or the government of provincial unity hinges on the ANC working with the DA. It does not. It does not also hinges on the ANC and the DA coming together. It is about all parties represented in the provincial legislature. If you listen to the manifestos, by the way, of all parties, they each represent particular constituencies, but they each have their own focus points. That's why it's going to get interesting when we go to APPs, because now it's about the flow of ideas. It's no longer about positions and everything else. And I think that we need to get the motion out that GNU means a grand coalition between the ANC and the DA. It does not. It does not. Or government of provincial unity means that the ANC has entered into a coalition with we're not in coalition with the DA, even at national. Yeah. I know you've heard the DSG of the ANC, Comrade Nomvuyo overemphasizing that fact. I know you also had the chief whip of the ANC in Parliament, Comrade Ndumiseni Mtuli, overemphasizing that this is not about the DA and the ANC.
Yeah. We have not seen, though, that display of being able to separate party from state.
Yeah.
In earnest practice. Maybe one would say the ministers, in particular at the national level, who have come in a little inexperienced about how national government actually works, and they're still going to be schooled in how that works. But we have so far seen ministers who want to position party interests over what the overall state is actually pursuing.
Well, not in Gauteng, national as well. I was listening to an interview with the new Minister of Basic Education saying that I'm not a DA minister. And I think that was a very profound point, because at national level, ministers serve at the behest of the president. So they have delegated functions and responsibilities that are given to them by the president. And in Gauteng, MECs are appointed by the Premier, and therefore they have delegated functions that have been delegated to them by the Premier. They perform the functions that are assigned to them by the Premier. Hence, I'm saying that let's give it time. It's a new thing in our democracy that we find ourselves in this kind of situation that we find ourselves. And it's not like we have answers for everything. Yeah. But what we have an answer for is that we are all committed to the stability of government and to ensure that this government of provincial unity is enduring, it's able to pass budgets, it's able to address issues that affect our people, it's able to touch the lives of our people in Gauteng, and to attract investments and create jobs. That is our primary focus as all parties there. And that's what we're beginning to do with all parties. And that's why so far we have not had problems. Yes, it will have challenges. Right. There are storms ahead of us. There are going to be serious challenges, and that's why we have used our experience in negotiating in the coalitions in municipalities into what we came out of the National Executive Committee and said, instead of going for a coalition and throttling out all parties and say the two big parties, which is the DA and the ANC, come together and throttle everybody else and ensure that you keep other political parties bickering, squabbling, and using platforms of the media, including those of Parliament and the legislature, as a public speaking debate. We'd rather come out with what the electorate is saying to us, because our interpretation of the results was that the electorate was testing if ever the African National Congress and all other parties can be able to actually transcend their petty political bickerings, put them aside, and prioritize the citizens. And that is at the apex of what we have to do.
Talking about prioritizing the citizens as a lawmaker in the country, but also as the speaker for the African National Congress in the province, one of the senior citizens of the country, also who has led in various sporting codes in the country, has passed away, and it's due to crime. Talking about Prasten, what is your reaction to that?
It's very sad. I together with the provincial chair, Comrade Panyaza, and Comrade TK and Lesego, not long ago we visited the family when he lost his son Tukulo, the member of the TKZ. It's very sad that he tragically passed away due to crime, and that's one of the things that we have to come together to combat. Not just the police, not just the politicians, but the citizens as a whole, because crime is a societal issue which requires all of us to come together and begin to fight it. In areas where you find that there's less crime, it's because you've got CPFs that are very effective, that work together with the police, that work together with security companies. And that is one of the things that is lacking in our country that we have to bring back. That we should not relegate everything to government. That government has a silver bullet for all the problems that face us. We need to begin to then engage the public communities and the people and citizens of this country to begin to become active citizens in fighting and combating crime. And I think it's so sad that we lose somebody who has given the best years of his life to serve the people of our country as an instrument in transforming soccer in this country, especially after the unbanning of South Africa from international sport, being a coach of Bafana Bafana, and also introducing a new brand of football, which Mamelodi Sundowns is still playing, Shoeshine and Piano. He will be fondly missed and remembered, and his passing must not be in vain. We need to actually wage a relentless war against criminality. It's getting out of hand, especially here in our province, and we have to confront it.
Lesego Makhubela, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on Chief Whip of the ANC in the Gauteng Provincial Legislature.